How you doing, sir? How you going? Do you think it's a waste of police resources and state funding to be prosecuting Monica Smith now all these years later?
If they can't treat me differently because they disagree with my political bias, similarly, they should not be taking a knee at Black Lives Matter because they agree with that. This has now come up to political discrimination, whether activism and journalism can happen at the same time, which of course they can, and also what our freedoms of speech are in this country and how Victoria Police can be used as the government's private army. All of this is coming up simply because they arrested the wrong chick.
I'm Yamini for Rebel News outside the county court here in Melbourne, Victoria, where Monica Smith is in middle of her 10-day trial suing Victoria Police for false arrest and imprisonment during the COVID madness here in our state. As we speak, she is cross-examining the commanding Victoria Police officer from the day.
So I am suing Victoria Police for arresting me 3 times in one day, unlawfully and falsely imprisoning me.
Now, I've been watching the last hour and a half. I can see you cross-examining one of the police officers who was commanding on the days. Tell us a bit about who that is and what happened and why you're cross-examining this particular police officer.
So he was in charge of that entire zone in Treasury Gardens on that day. So everything that happened went through him, basically.
How you doing, sir? How you going? Do you regret the enforcement of Victoria Police over COVID? I know you just gave evidence to say that you agreed with the restrictions and the rules and you were happy to enforce them. Do you not see now, 3 years later, that it was a bit of overreach? Do you think it's a waste of police resources and state funding to be prosecuting Monica Smith now all these years later? Do you think it was fair the way that you guys treated Monica? The state shouldn't just concede that they got it wrong, that you got it wrong? Do you want to apologise to Victorians for what Victoria Police did during COVID? Why don't you look at Monica when she asks you questions? Do you think you're above her? Do you think you're above Victorians? There we go. So Victoria Police, absolute contempt to Victorians. He did admit his political opinion was pro the lockdowns and pro the enforcement of them. But he didn't skew his perception of you or his enforcement. Do you believe him?
Absolutely not. And I have about 3 more hours of cross-examination, and he can lie as much as he wants. But I have the facts on my side, and he's already been silenced in the courtroom many, many times. He was very uncomfortable, and I've got a lot more in store for him. So it's to be honest, it's kind of fun, it's kind of stressful, but we were just trying to be heard back then, and now we're actually being heard. So that's very exciting for me.
One thing I've noticed watching the last couple of hours, the cross-examination, is he refuses to look at you.
I've noticed that too.
I've asked him about it. I guess he's got this disdain for Victorians because he refuses to answer any questions regarding this trial. Why do you think he's not willing to look at you in your eye when you ask those questions?
It's a lot harder to lie to someone when you're looking at them.
How are you feeling the trial's going in general?
You should ask someone else how they feel, because I don't want to be arrogant. It looks really good. And the only reason is because the facts are on my side, not because I'm special or whatever, but the facts are on my side. However, not being a lawyer, something crazy could happen and the wool could be taken over my eyes. So all I'm going to do is my best, and whatever the result is meant to be. But I got to be honest, so far, it kind of looks like I'm going to win.
I did ask him if he believes it's a waste of taxpayer dollars to be essentially fighting you on these false arrests or this case. Do you think this is a good use of public funds?
Well, I would put it to you that on that day, there was 780 police there. They only gave 33 infringement notices. I would call that a complete waste of taxpayers' money.
How many of those were paid?
2 of them. Mine were withdrawn. The exact reason that they say I was arrested was withdrawn. And in there, just so you know, with him, they only asked him about the 3rd arrest. They didn't even ask about the 1st and 2nd arrest because they know they're totally stuffed on those 2. So.
One last thing, I noticed that the argument came down to, they were saying that you were arrested because you were in groups of larger than 10, which was the COVID restriction at the time. However, I do hear him saying that they thought you were thinking of joining into a group of 10 up to 50. How does Victoria Police know what you're thinking?
they don't. And I don't think we live in a state where you can arrest someone on thought crime. And I want to make sure that you can't. So by bringing these things up, she will have to make a judgment on that arrest. And I think that we can look back on this and we can use it as an example that you cannot arrest someone who is potentially thinking about breaching the Cho directions.
You said back then all you wanted to do was be heard. They refused to listen to you. They arrested you brutally at the time. And now he's essentially forced to sit there and listen to you. He refuses to face you. Is that somehow therapeutic for you, that now they're finally having to listen to you?
Of course it is. I didn't ask to be arrested. So I'm grateful to do this, and this could potentially be the most impactful thing I've ever done in my life. And it is not because I'm trying to sue them for false imprisonment. Actually, Avi, if you haven't been watching, you don't know this, but conversations about activism, journalism, being mutually exclusive have come up in this courtroom. We are going to have to discuss if Victoria Police have political bias. If they can't treat me differently because they disagree with my political bias, similarly, they should not be taking a knee at Black Lives Matter because they agree with that. This has now come up to political discrimination, whether activism and journalism can happen at the same time, which of course they can, and also what our freedoms of speech are in this country and how Victoria Police can be used as the government's private army. All of this is coming up simply because they arrested the wrong chick.
If you think it's important for the world to see what the state is still doing in the name of health, refusing to apologise and take responsibility for their actions during the COVID madness, make sure to like, comment, but most importantly, share this far and wide, because the mainstream media, well, as you can see, they're radio silent. So it's up to you guys to spread the word. And then head over to fightthefines.com.au, check out all our ongoing cases and outcomes from that crazy time across the country. Fightthefines.com.au, and if you want to help contribute to some of those cases still finishing up as we speak, you can do it there. Fightthefines.com.au.